Hello, everybody. It's Santino and Ferreira, and this is my upcoming trend presentation. And I'll be doing it on the rise of remote work. Here are just a few companies that are revolutionizing the remote work space. At top left, we got Zoom, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with by now. We use it throughout the education system and work in general. It's just a great app to connect people through video calls. And then on the bottom, Canva, it's a great software for web designing and web development in general. Slack is another one that connects teams and puts all the information really in one spot or whoever needs to access that information. So it just makes businesses run more smoothly if there's a bunch of moving parts. And then NordVPN on the bottom, it just says kind of security um, for online businesses to help them keep running safely. And yeah, so why remote work? Well, with the COVID pandemic in March of 2022 or March of 2020, along with it brought a whole new world of working from home. While businesses struggled and had difficulty adjusting, others decided to make the leap. New technology is making it easier and easier to work within the comfort of your own home with just a laptop and some Wi-Fi. Furthermore, massive companies such as Airbnb and Coinbase are now permanently switching to 100% remote workers. And here's why. The pros for the employees. First one is the ability to have a flexible schedule. Uh, this is debatably the most important one because can create a good work-life balance if you treat it correctly. Depending on how the business works, if it's time-based and you just work for, 8 hours a day online, no matter what, or if it's effort-based and they just give you some work and whenever you finish it, that's the only amount of time you have to put in for that day. Either way, you can kind of be more flexible with your work schedule and you could plan your days around that. Second, reduce carbon footprint without the need to commute to work every day and drive your car around. You're leaving less of a carbon footprint on the world. Third, there's a broader range of jobs. There's more jobs doing remote work now than ever before, so it's easier to find a job. May not be the easiest to get the job, but with such a high, amount of jobs out there, you're bound to find one that suits you. Fourth, the money saved, especially in transportation, parking, maintenance, insurance, etc. All that goes along with driving to work every day and parking your car in a big city in a parking lot, all that stuff. And then there's a few more, but lastly, I'd say is more inclined to do work. Especially for me, I like doing work online over my computer. I don't like having my boss like right there next to me in my ear while I'm trying to get work done. So I know for me and many others, it's really peaceful to just be in the comfort of your own home or your own office doing your work just casually. And then there's pros for the company as well. First, it's a big money saver on office space and transportation. Businesses spend millions of dollars to have office space and have all the equipment and the systems to run that office and transportation in general too. They have to commute to work and pay insurance and maintenance and all that stuff. So it's a big saving money on their end. And second, which is something that's really good for the company as well, they can find the most talented workers applicable. With such a big range of workers with remote work, you can now target people all over the world instead of just people in your city. So you can get people that are way more talented um, and can do a better job at the work you need them to do. And something that ties into this as well, if there's more people, if there's a broader range of people that want that job, since you're doing it remotely, you can also pay people less because there's more people willing to do the job for less money. So they kind of ties hand in hand with better work and less wages you have to pay. So that's a really big upside. And then lastly, another pro for the company is the higher employee satisfaction. And yeah, it's pretty much straightforward. If you have your employees, working remotely and they like their schedule, especially if you put them on an effort-based time schedule where they just have to do this amount of work and they could finish in a few hours. Um, I think a lot of employees really like that schedule. Now to talk about the cons for the employees, especially. A main one is just distractions wherever you're doing your work, and maybe from home or your office, but there are distractions at home that are not there in the workplace. And, these can get out of hand. Um, but if you stay focused, if you put yourself in the right environment and everyone around you knows you're working at that time, it shouldn't be too much of a struggle. Second, there's less coworker engagement, such as night outs or physical meetings. Um, that's one aspect that I feel like you're really missing out when you do remote work. It's the fact that you can't be close with your coworkers uh, as you would with a normal job, which is good and bad for some people. Some people don't really care, but some people like to be really close with their coworkers. So I could see how this could be a really big con. And then next is the possible reduced efficiency with such a flexible schedule. I know when my schedule gets super flexible, sometimes I tend to skip out on work days or just lay back and relax that day instead of actually doing the work if I know it can be done later. So that's one of the problems that I could see with remote work. But if you have a schedule and and you stick to that schedule, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, a few cons for the company. I couldn't really find too much, but one is the lack of physical meetings. Just as much as it could be a con for the employee, it's a con for the employer as well. If you like all your employees to get along with each other personally and have night outs and physical meetings and have them communicate with each other, then you're missing out on that aspect. And then second, the cost of these new technologies to run your business smoothly gets very expensive. Like I know the cost for Zoom for, big companies that want to put hundreds or even thousands of people on the platform is over thousands, $10,000 a month. So it can get very expensive with all these pieces that you got to tie into your company to make it run more smoothly. But in the end, it's worth it. And I feel like you save more money. Um, Exactly. I feel like you save more money in the end. So, who benefits from this trend? So, in total, when looking at remote work in general, I believe that the pros outweigh the cons for both the employees and the employers. First and most important, a lot of money is being saved on both sides of the equation, while also creating a better and balanced and flexible work schedule for employees working from home. Also, with the reduced amount of cars on the road, remote work is greatly reducing the carbon footprint of many employees, in turn improving the health of our environment. Lastly, the people benefiting the most from this whole work from home trend are the companies trying to make this transition to the online world easier, such as Zoom and these other platforms like Slack and NordVPN. I believe that these startup companies are the ones benefiting the most because large companies are willing to spend a lot of money to have their businesses run as smoothly as possible when switching over to remote work. And then who could be harmed by the trend? I believe that the one of the few groups of people that are harmed during this trend are the people or the ones who don't have the best technological skills. These people will struggle to adapt without proper training. Besides this, I don't think there will be any other groups of people who will be harmed from the switch to remote work in the short run. In the long run, however, I believe that the main downside to remote work is not physical but mental. Working all day alone in your office or home after a while can get very lonely and can create a growing sense of isolation. With work taking up a large portion of people's lives, it's important that employees feel confident and happy at work, or their mental doubts may slip into other parts of their lives, such as their work or their family or their relationships. So that's never good. Would I recommend implementing this trend into San Francisco life? I said, while this trend is already being implemented into a lot of big cities around the world, I feel like San Francisco could do a little bit of a better job at implementing remote work. There are a lot of business and office jobs in San Francisco that don't require you to be in person in essence, but attendance is still mandatory. Uh, and I feel like if a few large companies switch to remote work, we can reduce our carbon footprint, reduce traffic within the city, and save money all around that can be better spent. However, although this may be a better option on paper, it's easier said than done. Companies in city have spent millions of dollars on office space, employee wages, and business systems. And with a switch to remote work, all of these things would have to be completely renegotiated or reallocated, which costs a lot of time, effort, and money. So I can see why they would not switch on their end. In conclusion, I want to leave you with this. I believe that remote work is only going to get more and more popular throughout this decade, solely based on all the benefits. Of course, there are some jobs that cannot have remote workers, such as people handling food, firefighters, policemen, etc. But in terms of office work, almost anything can be done remotely. I'm a large believer in remote work, and there are a lot of startup companies dedicating their resources towards making working from home easier. Working remotely also gives you the freedom to work from anywhere in the world, not just from your own home. I mean, heck, this class is even done remotely. In addition, the articles I chose were all from March of 2022 to current day, and they all include studies to measure the effects of remote work, and which is what I've shared with you today. Overall, I think we should all gradually start to realize that remote work could become the new standard of work here in America, and we should all plan accordingly for the future. And my works cited page.